Here from Rochester, if you're wondering. It took me about 6 hours or 4 hours to get here, but I'm talking specifically to, I guess obviously the people here, and I want to thank the Petery Family Center, New York State Partners in Policymaking, and all of you for listening for the next 2 or 3 minutes. And what I'm going to talk about is a bill that some of you may not be aware of. I wasn't aware of it until recently. And basically the bill is A2006A. Now, what this bill is about is putting disability education within disability rights within the educational curriculum. And how this is a very new concept within a lot of states, especially in New York, unfortunately. And it was a bill from four months ago that has not gotten passed because the Assembly and the Legislature had two different versions, and they have not come to an agreement. Now basically, this bill would include the talk of disability rights going back 40 or 50 years, particularly within the history or political science curriculum classes. Because a lot of times disability is talked about specifically within a neurological or biological or psychological or psychiatric context, which is, as an autistic person, I will say that is grossly insufficient in any sense of the term. Because, as I will tell you, there are a lot of people with developmental disabilities who have written and who are out there and who are advocating and who are talking about disability from the political standpoint. And as disability grows, I think it's 15% of the American population has a disability in this country of some version. The autistic population, as many of you know, is growing also. And for the autistic population, from my experience, in the last 20 years, you know, we have fought hard for self-determination, and yet when I speak on autism, I'm literally astounded as to how few people know about neurodiversity. Now, for those of you who don't know about that, neurodiversity is basically the autism rights movement, basically for self-determination, for acceptance of the sort of unique capabilities of autistics. And that is something that, from my experience, knowledge is very, very few and far between. And without this kind of knowledge, we cannot have a productive conversation on developmental disabilities if people don't understand what they are doing themselves, if they are only hearing it through the medical community or the psychiatric community, because those components are helpful, but they're grossly insufficient. And so my call to action is that the New York State government reconcile this bill and create one version and put disability rights within the educational curriculum and put it right around the talk about the civil rights movement for several reasons. First of all, the civil rights movement and the disability rights movement have quite a nexus that a lot of people do not even know about. And I didn't even know about it until about a couple years ago. And also they started around a very similar time, back in the late 60s, early 70s, when deinstitutionalization first got underway. And also because of the fact that talking about it in a history concept, we will introduce it into the social model of disability, which is quite a bit different from the medical model of disability, and something with which I think your average layperson has much less familiarity with as compared to the medical model of disability, which has been so dominant. And also, I think the last reason is to talk about legislation that has been an aspect, not just ADA, but the GI Bill, which explicitly excluded veterans with disabilities from having higher education that otherwise veterans would have had. Because as you know, that put a lot of people into college after World War II. And so I leave you with one last part, which is that during certain months, bring in disability activists. For example, in April is Autism Awareness Month, bring in an autistic speaker to talk about it as part of the educational curriculum. Because that is the way to get people hands-on and getting an experience with people instead of having it through hearsay in the medical community. And again, I want to thank all of you for listening to me and giving me the time to speak. Thank you very much.